We're looking at Dorena Lake. For decades, highly toxic mercury from the Bohemian mining area has accumulated as sediment on the bottom of this lake. The proposed hydroelectric project will disturb this sediment and it will wash it downstream through these floodgates 5 miles downstream to the city of Cottage Grove's water treatment plant. Hi, I'm John Steele. I have a great deal of concern about the mercury that's going to be stirred up by this hydroelectric project. I want to talk about several topics today. I want to cover mercury and sediment. I'm going to talk about the floating debris in the lake, how it's a hidden cost, the location of the penstock, and finally about the stability of this 60-year-old dam when they drill a 11-foot diameter hole right underneath the middle of the foundation of this dam. First, I want to talk about sediment mercury. Mercury is used in the gold amalgamating process at Bohemia mines through rainfall and washing through the tailings. It comes down through the creeks, comes in as sediment. Mercury comes in two forms. It can be dissolved within the water itself. That's one way it's located or transported. And then the other way it's transported is through its attachment of suspended particles in the water. And as you can see, the water's a little murky. It was much darker the other day. And as it sits here, it settles out and forms sediment on the bottom of the lake. Even though there's a lot of it being transported downstream, there's still a significant amount of sediment that accumulates on the bottom of the lake. Approximately 3 or 4 different researchers have measured the sediment in sediment sample cores, and they have established the fact. In fact, there's so much sediment down here you can't eat the fish. It's not good for you. Okay. Let me talk about how this process works. Currently, we have 5 floodgates open. They're trying to empty this reservoir to have flood control. As we move through the months of spring, we come to March, they're going to start closing those floodgates, and only one floodgate is going to be open from March all the way through next December. This allows the reservoir to fill up for recreational activities, and it also allows sediment to continue to settle in front of those 4 other closed floodgates. Now, when December rolls around and we have to do flood control, we rip open all 5 floodgates, those 4 floodgates that have been closed. Sediment flushes downstream during high ramping rates and high discharge rates. This has been established in other rivers and in other parts of the country. Now, here's where it's changing. They're going to install a hydroelectric turbine. With that, they're going to have a penstock, a new pipe underneath the dam, 9-foot diameter. It's going to extend out here 100 feet. And the water that normally goes through that one floodgate that was always open between March and December is now going to be closed. That water is going to go through the new pipe, through the turbines, generate electricity, and that's going to establish the flow of the Row River. Well, now, at this particular situation, you're going to have all 5 floodgates closed for about 7 months between March and December. So what happened before, you only had 4 closed, but now you have 5 closed. 5 are going to accumulate sediment, and then here it is, come December, we're going to open all 5 floodgates. That's 1 extra floodgate releasing sediment. You take 4 things and you add 1 more fourth to it, that's a 25% increase. So why do you care? There's spawning beds, quarter-mile downstream, established rainbow fisheries. They're just coming back. I have a picture of somebody going crazy catching a over 22-inch rainbow. I have my neighbor who talks about I'm not sure if this is a steelhead or a rainbow, or it could be some salmon. I don't know what it is. It's huge. Further downstream, once again, you've got the city of Cottage Grove water treatment plant pulling water from the river that now will have a 25% increase in sediment. And because the sediment and mercury are bound together, you're going to have a 25% increase in the mercury. Now you think, well, maybe they've measured that. I called the DEQ and asked them, do you have any measurements of the water surface sample here below the dam during high ramping rates and high discharge rates? They said no. We don't have any samples at all. And I reminded them of the FERC document. They had quoted 4 different sampling times: October, December, March, and June. And they measured above Dorena, in Dorena, below the dam, and down by Government Road. They quoted a high figure of 3.87 nanograms per liter. But when you look at the discharge rate, the discharge during those sample times, one of them was 109 cubic feet, 109 cubic feet per second. The other one was 209 cubic feet per second. Right now, it's 4,000 cubic feet per second. Now, it seemed to me, I would be really interested in measuring how much mercury is going through there. Nobody's measured it. Well, I have. So you're going to have to call me. It's now being processed in a lab in Washington. So I have a great deal of concerns about this. Right below me here is the inlet valve for the new water treatment plant for the city of Cottage Grove. This is the Row River. It's been flowing at approximately 4,000 cubic feet per second from beneath Dorena Reservoir Dam. The turbidity has somewhat decreased, actually quite a bit decreased. It looked like a big chocolate milkshake here for a while. And what happens in that, as we spoke of earlier in the video, sediment is being transported downstream. Now as you look here, there's hardly any sediment on this top of this structure. This dustpan remains pretty white. There's nothing there. So if you're sampling for sediment, you're not going to find it. You're not going to find it out there because it gets resuspended in the water and transported downstream. This has all been documented in other scientific journals, particularly in the case of the Fox River in Wisconsin. Now, let's look at a little different spot, and I can demonstrate or show you the amount of sediment that has occurred in this area, which will contain the mercury in the sediment, as spoken of earlier. If we look at this particular area, I don't know if it shows up on the camera, but there's rippling effect, as you would see in a classical water deposition of sediment. In fact, I probably stirred it up a little bit right there. But as you see, I'm going to now drop the pan. It looks pretty clear. Then I'm going to scrape the bottom. This is the sediment that has come through in the last couple of weeks. And it's hard to pick up, but that's what it looks like. That's probably, well, yeah, it's coming from the bottom of Dorena Reservoir. This has mercury in it. To what concentration? I don't know. Nobody's measured it, but it's known to be there. It's been measured in the sediment in the reservoir, but it's never been measured during high ramping rates or discharge rates from the dam. Also, I just spoke yesterday to somebody that lived in Cottage Grove. They happened to notice that the turbidity index on their water bill had mentioned a little bit increase in the turbidity. Well, that would make sense. They didn't mention mercury, did they? I don't think so. So we might think about that.